A very warm welcome back. We're coming to you live from the Results Operations Centre in Tshwane, where about half of the votes have been counted. Let's, if you've just tuned in, maybe you've been working, maybe you've had your head in the sand all day. Let's just see where we are, and you can find this on the SABC website. This was 43% of the vote counted, the ANC at 56%. That is down from last time when they got 62% in 2014. The DA is sitting above 23. It got 22 last time. The EFF at 9%. It got 6% or so last time. The FF Plus rising, more than double the votes of last time when it got less than 1%. And you can see at this stage it was above the IFP, which has traditionally been in third place, then fourth place. So maybe a little bit of an upset there for the IFP. Let's speak now to Colette Schultz-Herzenberg from Stellenbosch University. And she's an author on election results. So you'll number crunch these numbers and write a book after this. You're worried. Let's start with your concerns about turnout.
Yes, so maybe this is the big shocker for the 2019 elections. At the moment, turnout is projected to be settling at around 65%. This is what the IEC is telling us, but it's also what the CSIR have predicted. Now, what this basically means is in the last election, we had a turnout sitting at around 74% of all registered voters casting a vote. We've dropped to 65. So this is a 9% drop. And it's a significant drop.
It's big.
It's
However,
massive.
I spoke to the ANC Deputy Secretary General. She said some countries would give an arm and a leg to have a turnout of 65%.
Well, they certainly would. And it's a normalization of politics, electoral politics to some extent. But this is a significant drop over just one election, from one successive election to the other. And it needs to be explained. We've seen 2 or 3% shifts in decline. And the overall trend in South Africa has been, since 94, a decline in registered turnout. But more importantly, around the world, we also look at turnout by looking at all eligible voters who are citizens of their countries and are eligible to vote but don't necessarily register and cast a vote.
So let's just explain this. So these are people who didn't even bother to register, but they're actually eligible to register and then vote. We know a lot of young people are part of that, especially 18 to 19-year-olds. Those people should be excited about having the vote. So how bad is it when you look at that overall eligible?
Well, we aren't doing so well even compared to other countries around the world. By global standards, in the last election, 57% of our voting age population cast a vote in 2014. We're down to 49% now, if these figures hold.
So less than half of eligible voters are actually voting in this
country. Came out yesterday and put a vote in a ballot box. So we do have to ask ourselves some questions, why the decline has been so rapid over one election, and also, are we comfortable with less than half of our eligible population casting a vote? And there are a lot of reasons for this. One of the reasons...
What are they? What is going on?
Look, I think young people make up increasingly a bigger part of our electorate. And as young people come onto the scene, we see much lower levels of registration and turnout. And this has had quite a significant effect on turnout of registered voters, but particularly turnout of all eligible voters. It's really suppressed and depressed the numbers. So there's one big reason. We somehow have to ensure that at least a big chunk of our young people are interested in politics sufficiently to want to cast a vote. And we're going to have to start to ask difficult questions about why this is not the case. If you look at registration, only 19% of 18 to 19-year-olds were actually registered in this election.
So they just think no political party represents me, or they don't care?
Maybe it speaks to another reason why
they're on their phones.
Yes, they're on their phone. Perhaps they're watching the election. They're streaming on social media, but they're not necessarily casting a ballot. This is also a global trend, by the way. Young people generally don't vote. But the problem in South Africa is that we have a very big young population, so it's going to impact our election results.
Is this good news? So let's just look at the figures very quickly. Let's start with the ANC, sitting on about 56%.
Sure.
You've got the CSIR predictions. We work with the CSIR, and they're pretty accurate in looking at where we are now and saying what the end result will be. So what do you have for the ANC?
Well, they predict the ANC will settle at around 57.6. So let's just round it up to 58% of the vote. And this
down
is
from 62.
Yes, so it's about a 4% drop.
How important is that for the governing party?
The ANC are going to be asking themselves some difficult questions over the next few days. I think they expected a decline. The polls suggested it would happen, and they've definitely lost votes to the EFF on the one hand. Perhaps some of the sort of more centrist ANC voters have shifted their votes to the Democratic Alliance, and then to a splattering of smaller parties. But this is the first time since the founding election that the ANC now sits in the 50s.
You look at voter behavior. What does this say? Because traditionally I don't know if it's backed up by the stats about the myriad of ANC voters who, if they're disillusioned, may stay away, but they won't vote for another party.
That has been the case for the number of elections now. 2009 we saw this trend starting. 2014, 2016 was probably the penultimate moment when your ANC voter that was disillusioned with the party actually did a stay away vote. They just simply didn't come out. They abstained from voting, and we see there the DA doing relatively better because they were much better at getting their support base to turn out. I think it speaks to the fact that our electorate is changing, Francis. At the end of the day, this is not the same electorate of 94 or 99. We have a lot of people who are increasingly not partisan, that don't feel close to political parties. This is ultimately going to impact on a big party like the ANC that's always been able to basically contest elections with a large support base out there that they can rely on to turn out and cast a vote. This is increasingly not the case. We've seen ANC party identification decline over the last 10 years, and this is going to impact the party's fortunes. It also means from a voter perspective that if we're not going to the polls with strong loyalties, what does drive us to the polls? And it's increasingly short-term issues. We're looking at evaluations, we're looking at performance, we're looking at the candidates. And in this election, I would argue certainly that the candidate, Cyril Ramaphosa, has worked very well for the ANC.
Yeah, but still not pushing those numbers up. The DA also, should they be disappointed that they maybe haven't gone down significantly, but they certainly haven't gone up?
Yeah, it's an interesting case, and obviously this is speculation, and we don't fully know the extent to which the DA has had some significant changes. But there's a lot of evidence at ward level right now to suggest that although the DA seems to be coming in at about 21%, if you look at the projections from the CSIR, this would suggest very little change from 2014. So this is
down
a party
from 22 also.
Yeah. So this is a party that's really held its vote share. But there is a suggestion that there's been quite a large vote shift under the aggregate results. In other words, we know that the DA has shed quite a bit of support to the Freedom Front Plus on the one hand, but it's attracted support from somewhere else to make up for that deficit, and probably from the ANC.
So quickly, is that about the DA changing its image from being a white party? That's the baggage it's trying to drop.
Yes, I mean, clearly the DA is going through some sort of transformation at the moment in terms of where it stands on very important policy issues. And I think a more transformative projection has pushed some voters away and probably attracted others, along with the pitch and a track record of sort of capable, clean governance.
All right, thank you so much. Looking at voter behavior, what it all means. Colette Schultz-Herzenberg from Stellenbosch University. And let's take you to Polokwane now in Limpopo. Musa Mabunda